With the recent events involving Charlie Kirk and Irina Zaraska, I had to take some time to process all this. I didn't know Charlie Kirk personally by any means, but like many of you, I followed their content and I watched the way they engaged with people. And honestly, what's happened in the last day is really shook me. We need to take a moment to honor and look at what their work was, not just remembering who they were, but by continuing to build on what they started. Charlie seemed like he was somebody who wasn't afraid to challenge ideas, to present the facts, and to push people into deeper thinking. That kind of boldness in this society is rare, and if we let it die and end with him, we lose any ground that has been made in a culture that already resists the truth. So let's talk about how we move forward from this incident. What stood out to me just from watching his work was the way he gave people space to speak, even when he disagreed. He didn't silence people. He questioned them. He asked them to defend their beliefs, what they were saying. And that takes a lot of courage, because most people today, they don't want their views challenged. And that's where the problem lies. We live in a culture that runs on feelings instead of facts. People hold on to what feels good emotionally and push away anything that makes them uncomfortable or anything that makes them face the truth. So when somebody like Charlie Kirk came along presenting the truth and asking hard questions, it cut against the grain. And sadly, that made him a target. Even more disturbing is how some people respond to this tragedy, celebrating his death. That reveals how broken our culture is. I'm not new to violence. I've seen my share. But we've seen tragedy and violence across this nation like never before. And people ask why one life gets more attention than another. And that's really a fair question. But in this case, though, the one we're talking about somebody who consistently put Christian values and biblical truth into the public space. And like I said, that's rare. And that's why he stood out. But here's where we shift. This can't just be about looking back. We need to ask, where do we go from here? Because if Christians don't step up and carry this forward, then the culture will keep sliding further away from the truth. We need to honor what he started by standing firmly on biblical truth, even when it's unpopular, weighing every idea against what Scripture says, not just taking somebody at their word for it. We need to pray for our nation, for our families affected, and the courage to speak truth and grace. This isn't about copying a personality. It's about living out what the Bible commands us to do, to speak truth, to be a light, to engage a world that's drifting away from God. I needed some time to step back and think about this, and maybe you've been doing the same. It's all over the news. It's hard to get away from it. My hope is that maybe this helps you see past the shock of the moment and focus on what's next. This is bigger than, one person. It's about Christians rising up to fill the gap that's now here. We need to keep pointing people back to Christ, putting God in our lives and our nation, and to refuse to stay silent when truth is under attack. That's how we honor Charlie Kirk. Not just him, any Christian that's died, martyred for their beliefs, which is happening all over the world. But just by remembering them, but we've got to move forward with that same boldness for the gospel. If this connected with you in any way, I encourage you to share it with others so others can think about it too. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos as we keep talking about truth, faith, and how we live out in this world that doesn't always want to hear it. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. This is Brian with Redefined Life.